Hello and welcome to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports. I'm your host, Gary Morgan. With me once again, my partner in crime, Jim Stam. Good to have you back, brother.
Yeah, I got a few less wisdom teeth in me right now, but I'm fully recovered. And Josh picked up the slack for me and for us, and he's always good. So I'm glad he was able to help us out. And yeah, so I'm ready, Gary.
Yeah, Josh from Bridge to Bucktober filled in last week, and we talked about free agents a lot. It was a good show. If you haven't checked it out already, do. It was fun. Jim had some good ideas too that he was going to bring to the table, so maybe he'll weave them into his trade proposals later on in this episode, or I'm sure we'll find a spot for them.
Sure.
So before we start talking tonight, I thought I would just get a little message about the show out. We don't really do a lot of this self-promotion or like who like us or things like that, but I see we're going through another likely to be short-lived social media exodus right now, where most turn around and come back quiet. I can already tell it's another wannabe social litmus test too. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't care where you go at all. I don't care that you're leaving. I don't care which social media site you use. Here's the deal. We're simple creatures here at Pirates Fan Forum. Jim doesn't even have Facebook, people. We've grown this show organically, and if you watch it, I hope you don't wait to hear about it on social media. Do me a favor, find the area on whatever platform you're watching or listening to us. Subscribe, follow the show, leave us a rating or comment, help others find it without looking. That way, no matter what nutbag, hot box of stupid you use for telling others they're wrong, you'll always know where the show is.
Yeah, listen, that's why you don't even need it for us, right? Because all we're going to do is come on here and talk about baseball. So if you like baseball, if you like level-headed talk about baseball, well, we're always going to be here. So
we still have an Instagram account that I don't know how to use.
Yeah, so look, do whatever you want on social media. I'm not going anywhere. I'm still X. Hey, if it dies, it dies, and it was a good ride. But so on and so forth. We're here. We're ready to talk.
Right. So fun show today. First of all, we have actual honest-to-God hires for the coaching staff to talk about. And we're going to talk about trades, which is always fun, if only because our only stipulation today is that we truly have to believe both sides would accept our proposals. That's hard. When you kind of put that own caveat on yourself, it makes you think a little bit harder, doesn't it? You go, is this a show proposal or is this real?
It's super hard, and it's super hard to let go of dudes, right? I mean, so, and then to hold yourself to a standard of it has to actually be realistic and not the crappy fantasy trade offer you get at 3 a.m. in the morning that you delete quicker than you can, say absolutely not. So yeah, but this is a good exercise. I'm looking forward to get into it. I've got some ones that I would do, and I've got one that would really hurt a lot of Pirate fans.
Yeah, I took some difficult ones too. I kind of pushed myself on purpose a little bit. So when we get to those, that'll be fun. And then we'll talk a little bit about these billboards going up around town too. I want to make sure we touch on that. It's important to cover, and some things that made me think, But so good show packed for you. Great to call your shot today too. So let's have some fun. Before we go to a commercial, we have some time. Let's start with the hitting coach, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Pirates have hired Matt Haig. Some of you old Pirates heads remember him as the hit collector. He's their new hitting coach. Matt Haig spent 2 years as a player with the Pirates in 2012 and 2014. one season with the Blue Jays in 2015. Haig was hired as a minor league coach in the Blue Jays organization in 2020 and spent 2024 as an assistant hitting coach for the big league team. If that sounds like something you've heard before, that's because I read it from the Bucko Banner Twitter. So
yeah, it's funny how you'd have to go like looking for things and props that people that can find little nuggets because it helps.
Yeah. But what do you think, man? I think, first of all, anybody that's trying to pretend they know this is the guy that's got all the answers, I mean, it's wishful thinking. He has done well in the minor leagues as a hitting coach. He's got some good results. He's had some good pupils come up through him. There, you can point to those examples. I'm sure you can point to failures too. I mean, it's baseball, so I bet he's got probably 75% failures, right? And then he got one season as an assistant on a major league bench in kind of a down offensive season for the Blue Jays with some stars. So, that's a little bit of a mixed bag for me. But all in all, I don't see it as a bad choice. I kind of thought they'd wind up with somebody's assistant. I was hoping for maybe a little bit more of a seasoned assistant. What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, back to what you originally said is all you can do is kind of look at this from a bird's eye view and speculate a little bit. There's nothing that's going to tell you right away that this is some kind of, slam dunk hire. From what I understand, he tends to emphasize some of the contact stuff more than the home runs. They probably need that. There's only so many home runs, I think, baked into the Pirates lineup as it stands right now.
Yeah.
Contact, they struck out a lot. And I do think they need to put the ball in play some more. I'm with you, though. Like, the only thing is like, at this point in time, you're probably hoping for a little bit more of a name that you can grab onto a little bit that has some chops, right?
Yeah, I mean, except the only argument I have is with hitting coaches, especially. How often is a guy like who's a legendary hitting coach that has bounced from team to team? Well, you and I are baseball nerds.
Mm-hmm.
Name one legendary hitting coach that has been on multiple teams that you remember, and you're like, man, that guy was the hit genius.
There isn't.
Right.
Yeah.
I think there's a reason for that. I mean, because like almost no matter who you hire, they've probably just been fired within the last year or so. And if it hasn't been within the last year or so, well, they're probably past their prime, right? Or they've been out of the game too long, or they don't know how to talk to the analytics guys, right? Because that's what happens after like 2 years. So I don't know.
Well, and a lot of times too is what this is going to come down to is do you have talent to work with too? Like, like you're not. None of these dudes are miracle workers, by the way. Like sure. they have to have something to build off of. Now, when you see the reason you can kind of start critiquing things is when they're not getting anything out of somebody across the board, and that's what got Andy Haynes in trouble, just like Ryan said. So
Ryan Lytle here says it's not Andy Haynes, so he's good, and I agree. I don't have the same feeling of dread that I had when they hired Andy Haynes. I truly didn't want him. There was reasons I didn't want him, just from watching what he did in Milwaukee and having had read a lot about his exit in Milwaukee. It was just a guy I wanted them to stay away from. I thought he was radioactive. No such feeling here with Hogue. I think he could be good. I think he has done some good things. He certainly earned a shot somewhere. Again, I think I just kind of fall back on Jim. I'm not sure right now I want to be earning a shot. That said, we're going to take a break, but our next person we're going to talk about, the new assistant pitching coach, gives me some hope. Gives me some hope here that maybe they're not even done with the hitting side of things.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores, track the latest stats, chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
All right, welcome back to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. Thank you all for having liked and subscribed already. I know you listened to my first message, so I appreciate it. I know how willing everyone is to do exactly what they're told, right when they're told. It's that kind of environment, right?
Absolutely.
So,
we all love being bossed around.
I think I had one more thing I want to say about the hitting coach, just because I've heard it brought up a few times, Jim.
So did I. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I heard he wasn't a good hitter, in the major leagues, and I guess I thought to myself, not a lot of great hitters are good coaches. It kind of usually is the guys that fail that know what's missing, and ultimately they retire mostly because they realize they don't have the talent, not because they don't know how to teach the talent what to do. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like if you gave them a Rock'em Sock'em Robot, they could probably win a boxing match.
Yeah, Gary, it's funny you brought that up. It's not what I want to mention, but I will say we have kind of found out over the years of us doing this that sometimes you talk to former players, and they're not always that insightful about how they do things, right? Like especially some good ones, right? Like some of the good ones.
Like Ted Williams had a way of turning a phrase about hitting, but I'm not so sure that would translate to teaching someone how to hit. I've watched it before, and it's so hard for those guys to describe something that they do naturally.
It's Barry Bonds tried his hand at hitting coach. It's why guys that are probably really good, maybe they don't communicate well. Maybe they don't have a way to translate that to lesser hitters. They're special. So I don't look at, like, take Mario Lemieux in hockey. Would he have made a great coach, or probably not, because
I don't know.
So
I'd agree with you, man. I think at the very least we can say I don't think that's disqualifying, but he wasn't a successful major league hitter.
No, not in baseball. Not. And here's the other thing I was going to add to this is, Gary, if the organization isn't going to tweak their approach a little bit, and we don't know how they're doing that part of it. So, like, we don't have that kind of access as to what's going to go on, and that's a big part of it too. Is like, who are you coming in? Who do you have to work with? And what's the philosophy going to be? Is it going to change at all? Are there any tweaks to be made?
Yeah,
it remains to be seen.
I mean, you would think, like, even they just hired the new analytics guy from Cleveland, and you would think there's probably new inputs coming from analytics too. There's going to be new angles to look at, new things they want to bring to the table, and that's something that they need to incorporate into the work they do. So we're not 100% sure there, and like I kind of alluded to, we're not 100% sure they're done with hitting yet. It may not just be Matt Haig on an island. They may fortify the position, because they just did something we've been begging them to do for a while. The Pirates have hired an assistant pitching coach, and he's a good one, Brent Strome. He served as the Diamondbacks pitching coach the past 3 years. He was a pitching coach with the Astros from 2014 to 2021. He's often credited with unlocking Garrett Cole and Charlie Morton in Houston, but come on, both beyond pretending one coach figured that out, right? I mean, I don't want to do that. And he's also being punished for the Diamondbacks having a couple guys take steps back last year, and mostly Jordan Montgomery being an epic failure at the time.
To the point where I just saw they might be looking to try to trade him. So
sure. And I honestly think that guy might be primed for a revenge season. So that might not be a bad idea for somebody like the Pirates, who need a strong lefty, right? This is a good one, though, I think. First, he's got more of a pedigree than Oscar Merritt, even now, you know?
Mhm.
Second, how long have we been saying they need more MLB level assistant help, brother? I mean, like, it feels like since we started. I'm hopeful they hire an assistant hitting coach now, a real dedicated one.
I agree. I mean, for a team that loves to hire all kinds of analytics guys and extra guys and whatever, you'd think you'd want to try to do that on the major league bench too, in the clubhouse. Now, I was a little taken back. He's 76 years old.
Yeah.
You know, he's got some mileage on him. But you know what? In a way, I kind of like there being like an older, kind of crotchety guy on the staff that's maybe a little old school. Like I think I think teams still need that. I know that may sound cliche or whatever, but I can't imagine that's a guy that's not going to tell you what he thinks, and he's not afraid to say exactly what he thinks needs to be done at this point. He's not. What does he care?
Yeah, and he took an assistant position, so he's clearly not looking for the glory. He's not looking to like control a staff. I'm sure this isn't even a really long commitment, but I like it. They didn't make any changes to the pitching staff. They got rid of, I mean, like Oscar Marin stays and remains at the top. They've gotten him some help that I think is more than qualified to do his job, need be. So I love that with the emphasis that has to be on starting pitching with this team next year.
Sure.
And you haven't had Keller put together a full season yet. You know, you've got Paul Skeens that I don't think is going to require too much of anything from anyone from the coaching staff. He's going to do his own thing, I think. Jared Jones needs help finding a third pitch. That's kind of a specialty of this guy. You know, so
Yeah.
I just think like he really could put jet fuel into this whole thing. And they got more young kids coming that he knows how to handle.
Yeah, I mean, lean into it, right? I mean, this is the absolute strength and foundation of your organization. Paul Skeens is. It sounds ridiculous to say, but he's already a kind of a coach too. So I'm sure there's a lot of support there now. It's going to have to be what they rely on. So I think that was a huge addition. And you, like we just talked about, you can't really say that very much sometimes about assistants.
I'm just going to say if they had moved on from Marin and hired this guy, I would have told you it was an upgrade. So to get him on board as an assistant, to me, that really has a chance to have an effect. This is a guy that will step in and knows exactly what his role is right away. Just making some guys make a better connection with what is being taught.
Sure. I can't even imagine the knowledge somebody like that has. Like,
yeah.
Those dudes, I would hope they're all sponges because he's probably a guy. I hope we get to hear from him a little bit. I don't know how that will happen.
Yeah,
but
he loves to talk, so I can't wait to see it.
Yeah. I just want to see, like I said, like I just like that there to be some age and some wisdom and some frankness on some teams. Right. I don't know if the Pirates have had enough of that, to be kind of quite honest.
They've got some guys right now too that, unlike a lot of young players, they're the types that'll soak it up. Like Paul Skeens, he loves meeting those veterans on the road. That his time he spent with Randy Johnson, like at the All-Star game, like the dude loves talking to some of these guys. So I think this guy has been around Justin Verlanders and Garrett Coles and Charlie Mortons and big name pitchers. Like I like this match. This is a good one. I mean, we can criticize them rightly, and we will. And they certainly earn it. But this was a good hire, I think. No questions asked.
No doubt. It was a little surprising to see once you did figure out kind of who he was and in his resume. I was like, okay, all right, well, that's a good one.
So they still have a want to hire a bullpen coach too. So they're not even going to be asking him to do something silly like that. They're keeping him in the dugout. or wherever they want him to be at any given time. I even heard somebody mention that there could be times when he goes down to AAA to work with guys and come back. So
Like
I
a
love
little
that
bit,
sort of thing.
a little bit of
Especially,
a roving instructor type situation.
yeah. So I really love it. I think that's a great addition. Happy to hear that. Want to call your shot first, or you want to get into some trade proposals?
Let's do some call your shot, and then we can jump into it and spend some time, because we don't know what each other's stuff is either. So let's do some call your shot.
Sounds good to me. All right, call your shot, as always, brought to you by our good friends over at shopyins.com. Check them out. Head over to shopyins.com. All kinds of new stuff. He's actually got a new shirt up, I think, with it's about George Pickens. It's pretty funny.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's got his that eye black over his nose with his famous words from earlier in the season that everybody seemed to enjoy and be so afraid of at the time. But it
cost George a few pennies to do that.
Right. And so this week, Seth Johnson gets a discount for a super cool shirt like that, or he can buy something goofy like my hoodie here,
Which is super hot.
Oh, yeah. It actually is. It's a little too warm right now. But he asked, what do Yins think the targets will be in terms of control? 1, 2 years or longer than that, and why? I'm going to assume he means free agency or trades.
Yeah.
So, because for trades, I could just say 1, 2 years is 90% of what's going to be available in a trade. That's when guys get traded, when they have like 1 or 2 years of arbitration left. That's when a team tends to go, we're not going to be able to afford him, or we don't want to afford him.
And certainly with the Pirates, it's the last kind of guy you're probably hoping to get, because you don't want to be stuck with that problem that the other team is trying to get rid of, which is,
if it's a problem, it could be a situation where a team they're going into a rebuild. It's not like they're trading off a problem. There's no reason.
Yeah, problem. I mean, in the sense of like the contractual problem.
But it's not a problem for them as much as it's just, why would we pay him money when we could get prospects for him? That's what we need to do.
Sure.
We've certainly been on the other end of that spectrum before. So
yep.
I would just say for trades, most things are going to be 1 or 2 years. It's very rare when you get like these guys that are getting traded. Like Morrell getting traded to the Rays, kind of shocking. Only a couple years in the league, you still got 5 years of control or something.
Mm-hmm.
That's a Rays kind of target. If the Pirates were smart, that's the type of target they'd go after. But those are hard to try away.
Yeah, and it kind of, for our trade exercise, it kind of sucked whenever you were looking at somebody and you're like, this might be somebody that's interesting. And then you're like, oh, free agent after next year. And it was such a gut punch sometimes, because you're like, yeah, that probably doesn't make a lot of sense if you're trying to, for the Pirates, my goodness, years of control. God, we hear it all the time.
With free agency, it's a fan demand that it be multi-year. I mean, we've been talking for forever. Mostly because, Jim, I think when you see a hole at a position, and it's not just a hole at the position at the major league level, it's a hole at the position throughout the entire system, such as first base. I just get tired of every season knowing it's a Band-Aid. Every season is a Band-Aid. I'm going to have to pull it off at the end of the season and put a new one on next year. The scab ain't going to get no healthier. Get me somebody that, we wanted somebody when they first started this. Let's get it solved. Let's have it for 4 or 5 years. Let's hopefully build one in that time period, and then we don't have to do this again. They haven't done it. So every year I'm going to go into free agency telling you, hey, if they sign first baseman. I would love it to be a 3-4 year thing. But most of that board, Jim, is non-existent. They're too old for that. You're not going to sign Goldschmidt for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
You're not going to sign Tana, ain't coming for 3 or 4 years.
Right. It's become a weird position. I never thought I'd say that about first base in the sense of like offensively. We kind of grew up in an era where it was like the golden age of first baseman almost. There was a lot of good ones, and
it's not like guys just started getting moved there when their legs stopped working. Like Willie Stargell played there. It's not like we haven't watched that before, right?
Mm-hmm.
But where are the bona fide first base? Like, where are the people taking that position seriously? Like, where are the systems that are actually trying to develop them? It seems like to everyone, it's worst case scenario if you wind up at first base, right? It just like that. People are treating it like, oh, you don't want to be first base.
Yeah, look at the Yankees in the World Series. You're watching Anthony Rizzo looked like a corpse up. I mean, and he was playing first base, and it was like he was up there just trying to put the bat on the ball. And it seems so backwards for a lineup to just give up that position for any type of offensive production. But it's almost an afterthought, and forget plan B and C. It's like plan F there for some teams.
I mean, to answer Seth's question, I don't think we're going to see them sign anybody for more than 2 years. I don't. I think a first baseman, I just looking at the board, if they sign somebody, it's not going to be for multiple years. I just don't see it. Maybe Goldschmidt. If you could convince Goldschmidt to play for you for 2 years, maybe you do it. At 37, maybe you kind of bet there's enough in the tank that you could pay him $15 million for a couple of years. And I mean 15 each of those years. You might be able to swing a guy like that to your team for a couple of years, but you don't want a commitment longer than that for him.
And then it almost becomes, if that's what you're going to have to do, I don't know that I blame someone for saying, well, then I guess we'll just try to piece it together somehow, some other way, because, Paul Goldschmidt this year, I mean, he did not look good.
No, that's my point. He's easily the third best first baseman on the board. Easily. There's Pete Alonso, the dude from Arizona, whose name I forget right now.
Christian Walker. He's probably the one that's going to make out like a bandit.
Christian Walker, you got to figure, is going to be one of the hotter commodities, right? But I have a feeling he's staying in Arizona. I mean, they gave him the qualifying offer. He kind of feels like he owes them for giving him a late in his career chance in the first place. He's very entrenched in their community. I think he'd be hard pressed to leave there, I think.
Well, I read the Yankees are going to go after him pretty good. And, does he want to win? It's hard to turn down that kind of money. If he, 3 years, $60 million type deal.
I mean, the Diamondbacks have got just as close as the Yankees.
That's true.
So, I mean, he could feel like that's a place he could win. Point is, I don't think the Pirates, we keep getting derailed because we're such baseball nerds. But
right.
I don't think you're going to see them sign anybody for more than 1 or 2 years this year. I just don't. I'd love to be wrong about that, but
that's where the trades come in for the Pirates, right? Because
that's right. What a beautiful segue.
Man, it's almost like we planned it.
Let's do one trade each to get people good and pissed. Then we'll go to a break, and then we'll come back and finish pissing them off. And then we'll piss them off with the last story even more.
All right.
Sound good?
Yeah.
All right. Sounds piratey, right?
Yes.
All right, let me start. You're going to hate this one. You ready?
That's an even better segue.
Now, I'm going to explain them too. And then obviously it's up to you to comment on it after that, and we'll banter a bit before we go on to the next one. Here's my first trade proposal. You'll notice a theme. I'm trying to address that pain position. So I'm trading Bubba Chandler to the
Oh my
Baltimore
God.
Orioles straight up for Kobe Mayo.
Oh my God. Gary
We need
went with
hitting.
the-
They need pitching. A direct swap of top prospects with just about full complements of team control. I'd offer the same thing to Boston for Roman Anthony, but I think they'd balk at that. Roman's just not the type of prospect that gets traded, bluntly. Neither's Bubba, maybe. But I told you I was going to try to be crazy, and I'm trying to solve a position. I really think Kobe Mayo could solve a position for a while.
Yeah. What is he? He's easily top 10 prospect in all of the game right now.
Yep. Third base, first base,
Yeah, 22 years old.
big power.
Yes. Whew.
Honestly, man, like to me, it's hard for me to trade Bubba. I think Bubba's going to be really good, really good. But I think Kobe Mayo right now, and if we're trying to win right now, I think Kobe Mayo helps this team win faster than Bubba Chandler does.
Yeah. God, I wish we would have we haven't yet got to see Bubba yet, at the major league level yet. Like you want to be able to see it, how it plays. Like you think it's going to be pretty darn good. Look, the Orioles need pitching. So they
And they
might
need
enter
close to the bigs pitching too.
right. Yeah, so they definitely could be somebody that would be interested in that. But man, it's Bubba Chandler. Whew.
I mean, do you think that's a reasonable offer though? A 1-to-1 swap for those two? I think that's in line. I really do.
I do
think
too.
You're asking both teams to take the same kind of risk here, really.
Yeah, I mean, you've got one team that needs pitching, and it's pitching that's ready, and another team needs offense, and that's offense that's ready, and they're both right at that same point of hopefully breaking through.
Well,
so yeah,
they're both supposedly trying to be playoff contenders this year too. So, we're not asking them to trade us major league talent, and vice versa. I think it's something that has a chance of getting accepted. I wouldn't be happy to trade him again, but you got to give to get, and Kobe Mayo is not a throwaway prospect either.
That's good, Gary. I think that might be a poll question. Would you do that?
These all could be that.
Yeah.
Do a string of them, man.
This is Pitt City. What said you couldn't get an established hitter for Bubba? That's harder to line up, right? I mean,
you certainly can get an established hitter for Bubba. My appeal with Kobe Mayo is how many years of control I have.
Right.
It solves that position if everything works out for 5 or 6 years. And to me that's a worthy trade-off. Everything I see on the market that I think would be available. Well, listen, I'll propose other first basemen later. But you're going to see most of them are down to that 2, maybe 3 years of control left. And I don't want to trade Bubba for a couple years of help. I want to trade Bubba for at least as long as I thought he was going to help me. So,
yeah.
And maybe I watched too many Baltimore Orioles games when I was in Bradenton. But Kobe Mayo jumps off the page to me. So, and they've got room there. That's all I'm saying. Old move. We'll see.
It is. I think that's a great way to start it off. Since you've pissed people off with that, I'm sure.
Everybody wants to trade Keller instead.
Yeah, well, do the Orioles want to add that contract, and or would they feel that that's too much to take on for and trade a pitcher like that or a player like that for a
You're
guy
gonna laugh, but you trade Keller, then you go in the next season with Bubba Chandler. Can't just maybe be ready and good. Bubba Chandler's got to be ready and good. And then you have the same he can't make it to the playoffs problem that we just had with Jones and Skeens. And you better hope Harrington turns out too. And that Falter doesn't turn back into a pumpkin. And you signed Keller for a reason. They're not going to turn around and trade him just because you don't think he had a good enough season last year. That's all that is. That's why everyone's suggesting it.
Right.
We need to be happy that we have him in. He's going to provide over those years, the level playing field you thought he was. A number 3 or 4 starter. That's what he's supposed to be.
There's nothing wrong with being John Lieber in this game, right? Those types of dudes. So yeah,
right, your turn. You got to.
I get where that's coming from. Okay, so, and again, like you, I'm going to walk people through this one. Gary, I am trading Jared Jones, and I am trading him to the Red Sox, and I am getting right fielder Wilyer Abreu for him, and then I am asking as well for their 16th rated prospect, who is Mikey Ramiro, who is, both of these guys are left-handed hitters. Abreu's 25, just won a Gold Glove in right field. I'm not, as much as I like Jared Jones, I am still worried about some things with him. I'm worried about whether he can make it through full seasons as a starter. I'm worried about a little bit with the pitch selection that he has. So I would take Wilyer Abreu, and if you look at his numbers, boy, he was pretty darn good.
He's got a decent chunk of major league experience to prove it too.
Yeah, like his year was really nice. You saw right field. Mikey Ramiro is a shortstop / second baseman, another left-handed hitter in their system, and Wilyer Abreu would you could slot him into right field for a good long while.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're answering a question for a long time with that trade. So, like, you're using that talent wisely, right? You are giving away somebody that you spent a lot of time and effort stretching out last year. I share your concerns with him. Out of all the Pirates' established starters, he's the only one I'd want to trade if I had an opportunity. If somebody would treat him like a top prospect and give me that kind of return, that's what I would do. It's a very good one. Wilyer Abreu is a good one. I don't know that it would take Jared Jones. It might. Because I just don't know how good he could be if the Red Sox have room to get rid of him, because they kind of need outfielders too.
Apparently, they are, what I read was overly stocked with left-handed hitting. So
yeah, I could see that.
And that they are willing to think about moving him, and they need pitching too.
Yeah.
So I thought that it was just it lined up well. Again, those questions about Jared Jones, man. I like him. I do. Do I think those issues with him are ironed out? They're not. So, I don't want to say it's selling high on him, but there's some red flags there that have to be sorted out still.
Like Bruce says here, and he's really commenting on my trade proposal here, but it kind of works into yours because you're trading Jones, so you're depleting a little bit of that depth too. And a lot of the same reasons that I'm queasy about like moving on from a Keller. And I should just squash that altogether. I know for a fact he's not on the table, but let's forge through and let people have their dream for a while.
For the sake of argument.
Bruce says, you got Burrows, Ashcraft, Oviedo, Chandler, and Harrington to replace Keller. You did. You're supposed to be a playoff team. And now your oldest and most seasoned veteran pitcher is Bailey Falter. I don't want that. I want the guy that's kind of like been through it with Pittsburgh. You know? I want the guy that should be coming into his prime years right now. That's the guy I want. That I just signed. I'm not showing other people that I want to sign that signing with me doesn't mean that I keep you beyond like next year.
Yeah.
I want them to understand that the contract means something. We want something out of it. He will perform better.
Well, and Bruce, just because we're talking about it, and I'll just play devil's advocate here. How many of those guys are going to turn out to be Mitch Keller? How many of them are going to be healthy enough? How many of them are going to perform enough to do that? I don't know, man. I just don't think you can look at prospects like that and think that.
I can tell you the next healthy season that Burns or Ashcraft have will be their first.
I mean, yeah, look at the
Oviedo's coming off of the Tommy John surgery. I know that we've seen superhuman pictures of him lifting up weights and moving his arms about and everything. But that's still a process. He's still got some work to do to come back from that. Look, JT Brubaker never came back last year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Got injury, development, performance.
Yeah, there's that.
It's a long road.
Charrington, Chandler, and Harrington, yeah, they could both be awesome. But again, what happens if you make the playoffs? And they're two of your like horses, right? They're going to be like on their last legs, like Jared Jones and Paul Skeens were this year, right? I do believe they're going to take the chains off Paul Skeens this year. I really do. But you need Keller's 180 to 200 innings. You have to have it. And he's got to be better. He will. But, God, they took as much time as you could possibly take to be sure before they're signing the guy. They're not going to give up on it after a year. And I don't believe selling low on him is smart right now. Like, I really don't.
That's the other thing you would be doing is you'd be selling a tick low on him. And you'd still get plenty of suitors, by the way. It's kind of like how people outside Pittsburgh view a Mike Tomlin compared to the people inside Pittsburgh. So I think Keller suffers from that a little bit.
He's got second half syndrome too, just like we talked about, like with Jared Jones a little bit last year, where he faded.
And it's totally fair. I get people's frustrations with that.
Me too. Me too. I'm just trying to squash it because A, it's not going to happen, and B, it's just not the message you're going to send right after you sign a guy. And they got to have a veteran. They'd have to sign another pitcher if they did that. And I really mean like a 2 or 3 type pitcher. A veteran. They have to do it. So
now that we've sufficiently pissed people off by trading Bubba Chandler and Jared Jones, do you want to take our break and then we'll finish it up? Because we'll
take the break, but I've even pissed myself off now. So, all right, let's take a break.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
All right, welcome back to the darker toned Pirates fan forum where we talk about trading players that we have no business trading, Jim.
I can't wait for a few comments about that. After the show.
Oh man, I'm sitting here looking at my list of I'm like, which one do I want to go with to anger people? I think this one will probably go over well, so let me start with this one. Guardians receive Anthony Solomito and Shang-Chi Shang. Pirates receive Josh Naylor. Josh is a pending free agent following 2025, so he only answers a question in the following season. But he won't break the bank. He can play first base. And if you like him, hey, step up and pay him. I mean, there's your free agent signing. Go ahead and extend the guy if you really like him. this takes two guys who are still relatively high-ranking prospects relative to the Pirates system that probably aren't on a path I can see clearly as we sit here, Jim. In other words, I think they still have value. I just don't see them making it here for whatever reason. It's not a long-term answer, unless the Pirates make it one, like I said. But I think he's a guy I would take a swing at to kind of answer a question. And, best case scenario, he works out, you like him, you extend him. Worst case scenario, you kind of buy yourself a little bit of time to see if Endy or Henry or Brian Reynolds, or Joey Bart or Jared Triola or whoever are going to move over there.
Yeah, the big question is what do the Pirates think of Solometo right now, and what do other teams think of him? I guess, right? Because he definitely had a bumpy season, which happens. It doesn't necessarily mean he's gonna free fall, but there's something there. The year sucks that you only get out of Naylor, but I think people in Pittsburgh would love that dude.
Well, that's why I'm offering lower level prospects too.
Sure.
I think first of all, Anthony Solometo is exactly the type of pitcher that Cleveland turns into something, and I don't see it happening with Pittsburgh. I just watched him in Double-A, like in person, like right around Halloween, and I don't know, man. I didn't like it all that much. That's all I'm going to say. I was much less impressed with him than I was when he first got him. And Xiangxie Shang, they put him on the 40-man. I kind of don't see his place now.
Yeah. Yeah. To your point about Solometo, a lot of people were super high on him. I have never been as high on him as some people have been. So I hope he bounces back. Great news to the Pirates, whether they're keeping him or trading him. But so I can see where you're going with that. And you're trying to address a need at first base.
And it's a rental. To me, it's a better option than like signing Paul Goldschmidt for a year. I mean, any left-handed power.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like,
it solves a problem for this year. And no, it's not multi-year. But again, it's just because the guy's going to be a free agent doesn't mean you can't step up and do what needs to be done.
Mm-hmm. Well, both of my next two try to address first base. So, it's if you're doing this exercise, one of them at least has to be to address it. Let me see. Which one do I want to go with first?
A first baseman for sure.
Yeah, of course. Okay. You know what? I'll walk you through this one. Luis Ortiz to the Rangers for Nathaniel Lowe. The reason I think you might be getting away with that one is because the Rangers, are looking to reduce some salary. He is due $10.5 million this year. He is an unrestricted free agent in 2027. That means you get him for a couple more years. We already know Luis Ortiz has control. $10.5 million for a first baseman who also won a Gold Glove last year, by the way. And in the last 4 years, as a left-handed hitter, he has averaged 19.5 home runs per season.
Yeah.
So Rangers need pitching. I think Luis Ortiz has now established himself as somebody that could definitely be someone that you could see as, a definite for your rotation. And you're taking on some salary, but not enough where it's prohibitive.
Right.
So that's where I'm at. I really like that dude.
I like that dude too. That's a good one. I'm struggling mentally with is Ortiz now.
I figured that was my hang up too. If you have to add somebody to him, I would still do that as long as you're not having to give up too much to do
All
it.
right, take one of my guys that I was given for Naylor. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because
Right.
it's the same kind of principle. You know,
Right.
it's guys that are a little bit more mid-tier prospects, further away. The Rangers are probably looking for more of that type of thing too. So I'm sure you could probably sweeten the pot slightly and not have it alter the fate of the trade all that much, right?
Yeah, and I mean, it obviously would come down to, is Texas convinced about Luis Ortiz? I think he's put enough on paper now to say that you can like that, and you're obviously going to shed some payroll out of it. So, and I know that they want to do that, and they need pitching.
Yeah, I dig it, man, for real. I dig it.
So
This one might not work, but I'm going to try it anyway.
most of them won't carry, but go ahead.
Well, I'm questioning my own valuation here, and I'm making some assumptions. So you have to do that when you're trying to play around with trades and not using the machine to tell you yes or no.
Well, yeah, that's the thing too. Like, I didn't cheat. I didn't try to put this in anything. Like, I was just trying to do this.
I didn't either. I'm not doing any of that valuation stuff for this.
If somebody wants to tell us why, hey, you totally missed something, that's why this won't happen, then by all means do it. But we tried to do it very kind of old school.
Yeah, this is the Pirates fan forum. This isn't the Pirates trade expert exposition.
Trade Simulator 4000.
Right. So, all right. Phillies receive left-handed starting pitcher Michael Kennedy and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. Pirates receive Alec Boehm, third base, first base, and left-handed relief pitcher Jose Alvarado. Couple things here. No, I don't think the Phillies would consider IKF to be an upgrade on Alec Boehm. I consider him to be insurance and a defensive upgrade all over the place for a team very likely headed back to the playoffs who's been looking for that. They've expressed an interest in moving on from Boehm.
Right.
And they'll want to upgrade third base. This move won't accomplish that as a 1-to-1, but it would allow them to strengthen a weakness on defense and still pursue a starter there. I added in the swap of the pitchers to address another need the Pirates have. Maybe I'm getting greedy there, but it's a left-handed reliever that struggled last year for them. Jose has back-end experience, didn't have a season up to his standards, but still a 4.09 ERA in 66 games. From the left side, he's got back-end experience, like we said, $4.5 million for this year and a player option for 2026 for the same amount. So if he does really well, he probably opts out. If he does average, he probably stays, and you pay him another $4.5 million in 2026 as well. Keep in mind, I'm shipping out a little bit of salary too in Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, but I'm taking on about $8 million for Alec Boehm and $4.5 million for Alvarado. And it lets the Phillies kind of loosen up some joints that are stuck together because they really want to change up some things on their team.
Yeah, Alec Boehm is my final one as well. Simply because
I'm interested to hear what you offer for him then.
Yeah, so I tried to do something because of the same thing which you were like, am I giving the Phillies enough of what they need? So what I tried to do is, because Alec Boehm, you can play him at third and you can play him at first. My concern is, he did fade the second half of last year, but he is still just 28. You're still getting, he's not an unrestricted free agent until 2027. So you're getting him for some, 2 more years.
Yep.
Obviously, 8.1 million is digestible. They need pitching. So I did a 1-for-1, and I did it for Braxton Ashcraft. Simply because with Ashcraft, boy, if he didn't have some of the injury concerns, I think you would be selling high on him right now. And that's the route I went. I just felt that maybe that would be enough to get that deal done. I don't know, Gary. I'm sure someone will tell me I'm nuts.
Yeah, I don't think Ashcraft would be enough, but
yeah,
I like him a lot. I just think there's pretty widespread belief that he's got a real good shot of winding up a reliever. And I personally hold that belief. So maybe I'm kind of tramping it down myself. You know, I would think I'd have to offer a little bit more for what equates to 3 years of Bohm. You know what I mean? Like, that's a pretty good player. You know, pretty
Yep.
good proven player, I think. Instantly improves this team. So, and I don't think the Phillies need this year's starting pitcher.
Yeah, the other thing is, as I read about Bohm, that kind of there are some question marks about his maturity.
Sure, there are. Yeah.
Yeah. So
he'll fit in great next to O'Neill.
Oh man. Yeah. So I don't know if that works entirely. Again, you're limited. At least he plays first and third. He's clearly can. He's so and you get some control out of that. Again, our team's going to be willing to take that risk on Ashcraft. If it wasn't for the injury history, I think he would be very, very well regarded. But there's some concerns whether he's going to be a starter.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what the valuation's going to be on him. I think that's evident in both of our offers. We don't really know. I kind of threw it into a combination thing, if only to avoid trying to figure out exactly what he's worth. Because you're right, $8 million's not a lot. He's played on a team that has been consistently in the playoffs now for a couple of years and been a rather big part of it. Playing good defense. The only reason he's not playing first base is because Bryce Harper decided to move there. So he hasn't really performed poorly. It feels like he's being jettisoned off for some reason, and it makes you feel like there's got to be something people know underneath, right? And maybe it is that maturity stuff, but
you keep seeing the thing that they want to shake things up a little bit. So I don't know if they're just trying to pick and choose. I've heard Castellanos is in that group too. So who knows? And maybe somebody out there, if they want to weigh in and tell me why I need to add a little bit more to that, I will. But hey, he's still the fourth, fifth best prospect in the Pirates system, and it's got lots of pitching in it. That still should count for something.
Yeah. I don't hate it, Jim, if they would take it. That was my only question, is the value. And with them just straight up one for each other, you basically forced me to face a question that I didn't want to have to face when I proposed it,
Right.
So I'm glad you did, actually. It was kind of made the conversation better about it. But that's an interesting player. The other one I thought we'd get to is Lamont Wade. I didn't really do a whole thing on him, but San Francisco is probably going to make him available. That's a 1-year solution as well. I'm not sure he provides enough power, but he is a left-handed hitter. He will get on base. He will play the position professionally. He will handle it 75% of the time for you. That's an option too if you don't like the free agent market. San Francisco's open to looking for some young pitching.
Yeah, I would really like to see if you're gonna get somebody.
But for a rental, I'm not going any of our top pitchers. That's
no
down the list.
Sure. You'd have, yeah. I mean, he's the exact type of guy that I think you can do that with. I would hope if they bring in anybody, it will be a left-hander. I just think it's so necessary in their lineup that you almost have to make it the priority, even if you feel, man, I wish I like somebody maybe a little bit more, but he's not a lefty.
So there's some interesting trades. Let's get those talking. Comment on the show wherever you found us, like if it's on X or Facebook or YouTube or whatever. Let us know. Who would you trade and for who? Try not to cheat. Don't use those aggregating sites. Don't go and test it out on the show. Try it. I see some guy here suggested we would trade, I think, 5 prospects. Yeah, here it is. Ortiz, Davis, Termar, Johnson, Sawinski, and Barco for Cautious and Durant. And Durant. Boston would never do that. We would never do that. There's just too much risk.
There's just a lot going.
Yeah.
A lot going on there. Let's not get into the Herschel Walker type trades.
Yeah. Try to keep them tidy. Like, be realistic. How often do 5 players get moved? Like, think about
really what gets some of these done is sweeteners, right?
Yeah.
You gotta sweeten things a little.
Yeah, go in with your entry level offer and be prepared in the back pocket to pull another card out if you have to. But I don't know, good stuff. I love talking it. I like talking it when people aren't constantly rebutting me with the exact down to the $1 million value of the package that I'm. Sometimes it ain't about that in baseball. There's need involved. There's bartering.
There's urgency involved sometimes.
Urgency involved, right? So, I just talk about it openly. Let's have fun. One more thing I wanted to talk about, Jim. These billboards started going up around town. There's 4 of them that say "Bob sell the team." I saw, and it got me thinking. Like, is there anything that could really be done to salvage the relationship that the Pirates have with the fans right now? Are they? I mean, what brings the billboards down? Bob selling? Probably. I mean, they would have accomplished their stated intent, right? The other thing I think that could really be done to kind of instill some trust in the fan base is to do something completely crazy and unexpected. Give the Pirates an indication, Pirates fans an indication that their dreams aren't too big. Extend Paul Skeens. Do it right now. 10 years, $300 million, $30 million AAV for Paul Skeens. Don't worry about what your payroll is going to be in 10 years. Do it. This is a generational player. Prove to this fan base that we can get one of those, and he doesn't have to go away right away. That would change things here.
Yeah. Well, first of all, what would get fans to pull down the billboards and things like that? I mean, obviously winning. So. Some appreciable type of winning would certainly help. That being said,
I would think winning this year would be seen as despite him anyway. So I still feel like there's some big gesture that has to happen.
Could be. I mean, I agree with you. I think if Paul Skeens isn't the kind of guy you want to keep around for that length of time, who's it ever going to be?
Pitchers are risky. I understand.
I get all that. We get all that. Sure.
But this is a guy, like, you can sell him now potentially on it because you can tell pretty much what he's going to make in the next 5 years. You have that in your back pocket, give or take $1 million or $2 million. You're guesstimating on some of the arbitration figures, but you can approach him right now with, hey, you can make this over these next 3 years, or you can make this because we're going to extend you for 4 extra years. And that's a lot of money to turn down. Do you think you're Iron Man? Maybe you do. All I know is as he gets closer and closer to free agency, it becomes less and less of a, man, that's so far away. I don't know if I can be healthy. How can I turn down all this money? And it becomes more his agent in his ear going, hold on 1 more year. You're going to make so much money.
Well, it goes fast, right? Like, he's going to get a year of service time this year, most likely. Monday we'll find out, if he gets Rookie of the Year or not, and that'll be a fun conversation. Yeah. But then you're also looking as you're not holding on to him into the last year of his rookie deal if you're not going to re-sign him. So you're shortening it on that end. Next thing you know, you're down to 3.5 years, and you're already talking about it.
That's what I'm saying. And in the back of your head, when he was drafted, Jim, we knew he was good. all the way back to when we were talking to Caroline about who they were going to draft, right?
Yep.
We knew this kid was different. From the second that he started throwing in the minors, we were like, oh, wait a minute. This isn't just going to be a sort of kind of good pitcher we can kind of hope will turn in. He's going to start that way. Holy hell.
And now it has turned into Paul Skeens is a mega star.
Yeah.
Like,
now you got to do everything you can to make him not go. At least not when everybody expected it.
If there's a way for you to buy an extra 3 years out of him, I don't see how you can't try to. 3-4 years. I don't see how you can't fall all over yourself to do it. Then again, it is Bob Nutting, so who knows if he even wants to have that conversation.
I mean, all I can say is like PNC average attendance was like 21,000 last year, and you can thank Paul Skeens for a lot of that. I would have to imagine that even a crappy businessman like Bob Nutting would look at the bottom line and realize that 30 million is nothing for doing a little bit of work on repairing your relationship with this fan base.
Right, which is how we started this conversation. So
B, locking down a player that you can build around, even if this GM turns out to be incompetent and you have to sell off again. He survives that and sticks with you, or he leaves and he's Juan Soto and repopulates your team. It's a win-win-win if you can get him to agree to it. Give him option years. Do whatever. Send the message to fans. That's all.
Yeah, and you know what? If it doesn't work out because he turns into Mark Pryor with, injury after injury, well, you know what? I don't know, man. Can't be afraid of your own shadow forever. He's a star of stars.
Yeah, it's impossible to avoid.
Yep.
And it's going to be a topic every year that's going to intensify. Every single year it's going to intensify. Because every year that they don't do anything, the people that say he's going to be wearing pinstripes are right.
Yeah.
He will.
Yep.
And like that's what we all knew would happen at some point. I'm just saying, like, hey, step out of the box. Realize this is a different kid. This is your King Felix. This is, it doesn't mean you're going to win anything just because you sign him. Fans aren't to believe like a World Series is here because you extend him. But I think we've seen one thing watching baseball. How many teams actually go anywhere if they don't have at least one megastar on the team? You have to have at least one, preferably two, megastars. And Dodgers have like a lot of stars, right? But they've got two megastars. Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, right?
And when Freddie Freeman's your third, that means you're sitting pretty good.
Right. They're better than most. But like you gotta have it. Arizona, Corbin Carroll was playing like one. Like you have to have that. Zach Gallen was pitching like one.
Mm-hmm.
Here's your shot. Here's your shot to do what we've never even seen you have an opportunity to do. Andrew McCutchen counts, I guess. You did it. You extended him. That's the last close to generational player we've had, right?
Yeah.
Barry Bonds slipped away. Let's do it. Don't let it happen this time. Prove us wrong.
I can't disagree with you, and I said it earlier this week. Actually, ironically, right after you put out that column about it, and we hadn't even talked about it. It just seemed like, you know what? If you're going to plant your flag somewhere around somebody, you couldn't build someone in a lab to do it better than Paul Skeens. Like you could not.
And don't shortchange it either. Like I know people don't want to get greedy, and we're talking like, oh, just give them 7 or 8 years. Screw that. Go 10. The guy will be 32 when he hits free agency. If you go 10 years, do it. He could make another $500 million on a contract right then.
Yeah, and on top of it, the other part of this is comes down to the guy. Is he willing to bet on himself?
Yeah.
And does he value some security out of it? And pitching,
Yeah.
boy, you never know with pitching.
He's not hurting for money. I'm just saying.
No, he's not. So
I think they're doing a disservice if they don't at least approach him about it. Maybe it's a Garrett Cole situation and he's going to go regardless.
yeah,
Try
I'm
it.
like, yeah, because 3 years from now we're already having to talk about this, and every day, like you said, that goes by is one more day he's closer to wearing Dodger blue or pinstripes. So
It's more expensive every inning he dominates.
right.
So
Yep. So
hey,
well,
that's probably
good show though, dude. Those are good trade talks. We'll see if anybody barks back at us about them.
I love trade talk. It gets
Yeah.
people all riled up, man. It's fun though.
Yep.
It is what it is. Hey, good week, everybody. And next week, what are we doing? 5 or 8 next Thursday? Did we even talk about it?
Let me look at my little Monsters sports schedule and we'll get it. We'll get it.
And then we'll figure out Thanksgiving week too. I'm sure we'll do a show. We'll just figure out when. All right.
All right. Sounds good, dude.
Let's go, Bucks!
Yeah, buddy.